The Long Walk is the newest Stephen King adaptation, and this is actually the first novel that he ever completed. Not the first one that was published, that was Carrie, but he wrote this when he was like 19 in college. And I was curious how they were going to adapt this book because the entire thing is walking in basically a straight line the whole time. And I was curious if they would be able to make that cinematically engaging the entire time. And I'm gonna do another video going into spoilers and comparing things to the book, but for now in my non-spoiler review, let me just say I had nothing to be worried about. This was great. Overall, it's definitely one of the better Stephen King adaptations, especially considering what they had to work with, a book that could be quite difficult to adapt. You have this alternate history where a war happened, America's facing a huge financial crisis, they're basically a police state led by this authoritarian called the Major, you're not allowed to speak out against the government, you're not allowed to speak out against the Long Walk, which is a yearly competition where 50 guys volunteer to outwalk each other. There's no finish line, you just have to maintain 3 miles an hour or better, and keep walking until all of them drop except for one. There are a few changes right off the bat that make sense. In the book, it was 100 kids, and in the movie, it's 50. I understand. It would be a lot more of a hassle to have 100 people there. It would be more repetitive. You kind of have to shorten that down for the movie, and the change that Stephen King himself actually requested in the book, it's 4 miles an hour that they have to maintain. They changed it down to 3 because 4 doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, once they get really tired when they've been walking for literal days, the idea that they're doing 15-minute miles constantly, no, 3 makes more sense. With those changes and with the people that they got involved with this, you have Francis Lawrence as the director. He did most of the Hunger Games movies. I guess he just likes directing movies in which a bunch of young people are systematically killed off one by one. Interesting. Okay, dude. And it's written by J.T. Molnar, who made Strange Darling, which I really liked, and we have a great cast. Cooper Hoffman is our lead Ray. I love seeing his career take off. He's been so good. There are so many moments in this movie and in many others and just in pictures and interviews where he really looks just like his father, and he has like some of the mannerisms. He gives off the presence of his father while still very much feeling like his own person, his own performer. He's really good here. He adds a lot of humanity to our lead character. And the other standout is David Jonsson, who ends up becoming his best friend along the walk, and he is so good. He has a couple monologues in this that are just fantastic. And just the camaraderie that's built among these characters in the short amount of time that they're able to be together, only a couple days, while they have to be walking, while many of them are dropping dead, while they know that any of them that they have come to like could drop dead at any moment. It feels like a genuine bond that forms between many of these guys because the actors are so good, because there's a lot of long takes where we just focus on them walking and we just listen to them talking to each other. We're really kind of absorbed into the moment and into the experience of their walk. And this is just a brutal, harrowing, sad experience. There came a point later on where I questioned, why do we do this? Why do they sell us, hey, this is what this is gonna be. This is gonna be a bunch of people, one by one, getting murdered. It is inevitable. Come buy a ticket. And then we do. It gets to the point, death after death after death, where you're just like, why have I done this to myself? I knew this was just gonna be depression, and that's the point. And yeah, here it is. It's effective. And maybe there's even a little bit of commentary in there. I like how the world building is mostly kept vague. We know there was a war, there's a financial crisis. How does 50 guys walking help that? It obviously doesn't. It's a farce. The excuse given by the governing body is like, oh, we have to inspire the Americans that working hard will give you a great reward. And it's like, okay, sure, yeah, that makes sense. But this is just a society where everybody has bought into this, everybody's been brainwashed with this. They really have no choice, and they make that clear. Like, everybody volunteers for this, because even though it's a choice, is it really? If it's like the one viable option to give you a better life, is it as much of a choice? if it's been indoctrinated into their heads that they must love and support this thing and speaking out against it gets them killed, is it really a choice? Of course, it's nationally broadcast. People love to watch it. It's a great sport. In our case, though, we're watching something fictional. It's fine. But we don't need to go into a lot of detail about what kind of war it was, with who, how bad are their lives financially. It's not the point. The point is the characters and the journey that they're on, and the world building is enough so that we understand that, and you can speculate what you think the Long Walk could represent. Stephen King wrote the book during the Vietnam War, and there's a pretty clear allegory in there for that, about these young guys signing up for this thing that they think could bring them glory, but it's actually just going to lead to their meaningless deaths. You could say the Long Walk is just a life. You go on, walking, struggling, meeting people, trying to achieve some nebulous goal off in the distance, and you're probably just gonna die somewhere along the way, and the rest of life is gonna keep walking on without you. Not to get, depressing or anything, but that's the kind of movie it is. I really enjoyed these characters and their interactions, and when you have a cast like that in a movie that guarantees they are all going to be dying, it gets rough. I definitely cried. And it's just an interesting premise, because it's not like Battle Royale or The Hunger Games where you see people actively fighting for their lives. You have some sense that there can be hope for certain characters, certain things that they can do to ensure that they have a higher chance of succeeding. In this, we all just do the same thing. We walk. If your leg happens to get a cramp, if your shoe does something weird, you could just be out of it, and that's just how it is. So in a way, it almost feels more painful, the pointless feeling of it all. We're just walking. That's it. That's the big sport that you guys came up with to inspire the nation. We go to Maine and we walk. That almost makes it feel a little even more horrifying that these guys are all here doing this and getting gunned down. Of course, the walk goes for days and hundreds of miles, so feet are bleeding, legs are getting cramped, minds are breaking because of no sleep and malnutrition, and people are going insane over the course of this thing. Their bodies are just completely destroying themselves, and yeah, you feel it. And if you've read the book, there are some changes, there are some surprises. The core of the experience is kept the same, all the most important things are, but there are some surprises. If I had some criticisms, I would say the pacing in the book, there's 100 guys. Because you can go into more detail, you get to know at least a little bit more about a wider variety of characters, and you can just spend more time in that world. It kind of feels a little bit more like you're on that grueling journey yourself as you keep reading. The experience of reading the book takes longer than watching the movie, so it's we're still walking, we're still walking, we're still walking. You kind of feel it a little bit more, whereas that's very hard to capture in the movie. I think they did a really good job, but I wouldn't have minded it being longer, actually. There's a balance to strike. Do you make it 2.5 hours long so that you can really feel the pain and just the monotony of them walking? Do you get to know every single one of the 50 and watch every single death? At what point does that get boring and repetitive and you have to cut it down just for accessibility's sake? I get that. I think they did a decent job. I would not have minded it going on a little bit longer, getting a little bit more time, because there were some points when they pointed out how many people were left, and I was I legitimately thought there were twice as many left. They cut from what I thought was 30 something left, and actually it's only in the teens. And I'm whoa. That many people died that quickly over the course of that one cut. And so it takes away a little bit of you feeling like you're in that moment and in that brutal situation with them when a lot happens off screen. And again, you want to avoid the repetition and going too long, but I feel like it could have been a little longer. One thing that I was unsure about as I was watching, but I ended up okay with by the end, and you're not going to think anything of it if you haven't read the book, but there are some characters in the book who are not in the movie, but their attributes are given to other characters that are in the movie, and I was oh, I don't know about that. They made him the one who's like that, instead of including this other character. But by the end, I think it all worked out. I think they condensed it all down mostly as well as they could. The only other thing I'll say is that, especially early on, some of the dialogue gets a little repetitive, mostly because a lot of these guys really like saying fuck. One character in particular, every other word out of his mouth is fuck. And I have no problem with fuck. It's a good word. It's a versatile word. It's just an issue of repetition. Any word other than like the, words that are obviously going to be there all the time. Any word that you say that often, I'm just going to get sick of it. Like, use a different word. Get a little more creative. So for a while there, I was kind of getting a little bit tired of it, like rolling my eyes like, oh my God, spice up the dialogue a little bit, give us a little more variety. But, as the movie goes on, there are fewer and fewer people. So you don't have to worry about it as much. And one of the biggest things that I'm not quite sure how I feel about is the ending. It takes aspects of the book's ending, but has some new elements in there as well. And I'm still not quite sure how I feel about it. I'm mostly fine with it, but I think it's going to be a little bit divisive. I think it's mostly appropriate for the kind of movie that this is, and I think it gives people a lot to talk about. I'm going to discuss it further in my other video that I'll make soon. But I feel like there might be a few tweaks that I would have made personally to the ending. But I really enjoyed this. It can be a rough watch, especially the further it goes. I heard people around me sniffling. I saw people reaching up and doing this. And yeah, it's effective. And especially when you consider how long ago Stephen King wrote this, how long it took to get an adaptation like this made, and the difficulties that would come in just filming people walking. It's really impressive. But let me know your thoughts on The Long Walk down in the comments, whether you agree or disagree with anything that I said here, your thoughts on the book, the movie, comparisons. I am also going to do that spoiler video, so stay tuned for that. We can talk in more detail over there. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more from me. Thank you so much. I appreciate the support, and I hope to see you next time.